March 17, 1943. Tirpitz, Sofa 7678, Berlin. The folder crashed onto the polished mahogany desk with such force that Admiral Wilhelm, Canaris's porcelain cup toppled, coffee spilling across intelligence papers, documents that, if discovered by the Gestapo, meant certain death. Impossible, he muttered. This must be American propaganda fed to us through compromised agents. Through the tall windows of Abwehr headquarters, Canaris could see the Landwehr Canal, the very place where Rosa Luxemburg's body had been dumped 24 years earlier, now as head of German military intelligence. He held in shaking hands a report that threatened not just Nazi propaganda, but the very mathematics on which German victory had been built. The report, based on intercepted communications and information from agents in Mexico City, claimed that Ford's Willow Run plant was producing one 4-engine B-24 Liberator bomber every single hour, a B-24 1.5 million parts, 50,000 rivets, 30,000 components, an 18-ton giant, rolling off the line faster than Germany could build a simple Kübelwagen. Major Friedrich Wilhelm Heinz, standing stiffly at attention before Canaris's desk, had verified the intelligence 3 times. The numbers remained unchanged. Neither man realized at that moment that they were witnessing the beginning of one of the greatest intelligence failures in modern history: the German inability to grasp, believe, or communicate the true scale of American production, a failure that would doom the Reich through pure mathematics. The collapse had begun 2 years earlier. In 1941, Luftwaffe, General Karl Köhler presented, Göring with reports from military attaché Friedrich von Bötticher in Washington. They warned that U.S. aircraft production was nearing 2,000 planes per month. Göring had laughed, literally laughed, mocking the claim. Americans can build refrigerators and razor blades, not airplanes. To Hitler at the Wolfschanze in December 1941, just 4 days after Pearl Harbor, Göring insisted, "It's all a bluff. Their democracy makes them weak. Their mixed races make them inefficient. Their Jews make them corrupt. They cannot possibly achieve what they boast." But by March 1943, Abwehr networks across the Americas were sending reports that contradicted every assumption of Nazi, racial theory, and economic belief. Mexican industrialists friendly to Germany, Spanish diplomats, Swedish businessmen visiting Detroit, even letters from American workers intercepted en route to neutral nations all carried the same impossible claim: Ford's Willow Run plant alone was producing more heavy bombers than the entire German aircraft industry combined. Oberstleutnant Nikolaus Ritter, head of Abwehr's Air Intelligence Section, Referat Luft, had spent 3 weeks studying the data. A former Lufthansa pilot, he knew America well. He had lived in New York for a decade, his apartment overlooking the rise of the Chrysler Building. He had watched Americans raise the tallest structure in the world in under 2 years. Now he told Canaris bluntly, "If these numbers are true, and I believe they are, then Germany has already lost the war. The rest is only a question of mathematics and time." The intelligence had traveled through perilous channels. Georg Nikolaus, who managed the Abwehr's main network in Mexico City, drew on American businessmen moving between Detroit and Mexico's oil fields. They spoke casually of the wonders they had seen, unaware that every word was being relayed to Berlin. On February 3, 1943, U.S. oil executive Harold Morrison attended a reception at the German-Mexican Commerce Association in Mexico City. After several tequilas, he began boasting of his recent tour of Willow Run, arranged by Ford to impress potential investors. "Gentlemen, what I saw defies belief. The assembly line stretches more than a mile. The building is so vast that clouds form inside, and it sometimes rains within the factory. They have 42,000 workers, including women, Negro women, constructing the most complicated machine ever designed." On a napkin, Morrison sketched the bomber. 2 bomb bays, each carrying 4,000 pounds of ordnance. 4 engines, each producing 200 horsepower. They build them in sections, Morrison explained. Sub-assemblies, Ford calls them, that merge like rivers flowing into the sea. Wings arrive from one side, fuselages from another, tail assemblies from a third. Each meets at precise points along the moving line. Blau, pretending casual curiosity, pressed, "But with such complexity, surely there must be constant breakdowns, delays." Morrison chuckled. That's what Consolidated Aircraft believed. They laughed at Ford, claiming planes couldn't be built like cars. But Ford dissected the bomber into 60,000 separate operations. Each worker repeats a single task endlessly. A woman who yesterday was making breakfast for her kids now installs hydraulic lines in the tail. They can be trained in days, not months. Some of the most revealing intelligence came via Franco's Spain. Colonel José Ungría, Spanish military attaché in Washington, cultivated close ties with American aircraft manufacturers, while quietly passing reports to Germany in return for tungsten shipments vital to Spain's industry. In March 1943, at a reception hosted by the Argentine embassy, Ungría encountered Charles Sorensen, Ford's production chief and mastermind of Willow Run. Believing Ungría represented a neutral nation that might purchase aircraft post-war, Sorensen spoke openly of the plant's power. When I first visited Consolidated San Diego facility in 1940, Sorensen said, they were building B-24s out in the open air. Each one was different. Each took 180,000 man-hours. I knew we could do better. Pressed for details by Ungría, who claimed professional interest as a military engineer, Sorensen, proud of his work, obliged. One night in my San Diego hotel room, I sketched the entire flow of production. We would construct bombers the way we build cars, not with workers, swarming a stationary plane, but by moving the plane past stationary crews, each worker repeating one operation until perfect. Ungría asked about workforce difficulties in handling such scale. We created an apprentice school that trains 8,000 people per week, Sorensen explained. 40% of our workforce are women. They're often better at precision jobs, small hands for tight spaces, greater patience for repetition. We have Negro workers running advanced machinery, 16-year-old boys handling supply logistics. Democracy means using all available resources. Reports flowed in from other channels as well. Swedish, Argentine, Japanese, Turkish, each confirming Willow Run's astonishing rate. Swedish engineer Erik Lundberg toured the plant in March 1943, reporting, the facility operates at an efficiency that defies European comprehension. It uses 1,600 specialized machine tools, many designed for a single task. The capital investment is immense, perhaps $200 million in tooling alone. Even a coded dispatch from Japanese naval officer Toshikazu Omi to Tokyo, intercepted by German intelligence, independently verified it. This one factory produces more aircraft each month than Japan's entire aviation industry. By April 1943, Abwehr had compiled evidence from 17 separate sources. The conclusion was inescapable. Willow Run alone was turning out 650 B-24s monthly, while overall American production of B-24s surpassed 2,400 each month. Still seeking undeniable proof, Canaris authorized Operation Pastorius landing saboteurs on U.S. soil by submarine. George John Dash, leading one of the two four-man teams, had lived in America for 20 years. Before returning to Germany in 1939, his secret mission from Canaris was clear. Before carrying out sabotage, verify U.S. aircraft production with photographs, employee counts, and shipping records. On June 13, 1942, Dash's team came ashore at Amagansett, Long Island, after disembarking from U-202 just after midnight. Within days, however, racked by the implications of his mission and aware of America's vast capacity, Dash surrendered to the FBI. In interrogation, he stunned his captors. Canaris told me himself, Berlin doesn't believe your production figures. They think Willow Run is propaganda. He wanted photographic proof, records, anything to force Göring to face reality. FBI agent Charles Landman asked in disbelief, They don't believe we're building a bomber an hour? Dash gave a bitter laugh. Agent Landman, I lived here. I saw your auto factories. I told them, if Ford could turn out a car every minute before the war, they could certainly produce a bomber an hour during it. They accused me of defeatism. Finally, on April 20th, 1943, Hitler's 54th birthday, Canaris personally carried the full dossier to Göring at Karenhall, the Reichsmarshal's lavish hunting estate north of Berlin. Photographs, intercepted reports, testimony from dozens of sources. Canaris laid them out across Göring's vast oak table, like a gambler showing his hand. Herr Reichsmarschall, he began cautiously, we now have confirmation from 17 independent sources. The Ford Willow Run plant was producing 1 B-24 Liberator every single hour at peak output, a pace maintained consistently since January. By this stage of the war, Göring, weighing more than 280 pounds, lifted a photograph showing the assembly line stretching far into the distance. With open disdain, he sneered at Canaris. "Do you take me for a fool? These are nothing but wooden models staged for propaganda. The Americans want us to believe they build planes like sausages. At best, this Willow Run factory might produce 50 bombers a month." Canaris calmly laid out another document, an intercepted Pennsylvania Railroad manifest of aluminum shipments. Herr Reichsmarschall, this single plant consumes 16 million pounds of aluminum every month. That's more than our nation's total monthly output. Göring barked a harsh laugh. And where do they get this aluminum? From their Negro laborers? From women riveters? Canaris, you've been duped by American propaganda. A week later, Canaris was ordered to brief Hitler directly at the Wolfschanze. Present at the meeting were Generals Jodl and Keitel, along with Propaganda Minister Joseph Goebbels. Hitler, poring over Eastern Front maps in preparation for Operation Citadel, the Battle of Kursk, listened with irritation as Canaris outlined the intelligence. "Mein Führer," Canaris began cautiously, fully aware of the risk. "If the Americans are building 3,400 B-24s per month, along with similar numbers of B-17s, plus their fighters and British aircraft production, the bombing of the Reich will soon surpass our ability to defend." Hitler dismissed the report instantly. "Admiral, the Americans are capable of mass-producing simple items, cars, refrigerators, but a bomber is not an automobile. It demands precision, skill, and discipline. We required 6 years to prepare for war, and they claim to have achieved this in 16 months? Impossible." General Jodl reviewed Canaris's figures, quickly running calculations. "Even if we accept just 1/4 of these numbers," he began, only for Hitler to cut him off sharply. "The figures are false. The Americans entered the war in December 1941. To build such a factory and reach this production rate so quickly is beyond possibility. What Hitler and Göring never knew was that Canaris had already obtained film footage of Willow, run through intelligence contacts in Switzerland, smuggled in via Spanish diplomatic pouches. The 5-minute reel showed the mile-long assembly line in full operation. Canaris and his deputy, Hans Oster, watched it privately in a locked Abwehr room. The camera moved along the line, revealing B-24s in every stage of completion. Men and women, black and white, worked methodically at each station. A clock visible in several frames confirmed the timing. "Mein Gott," Oster whispered. "It's real." Canaris lit a match and burned the film. "We can't show them. They would call it fake or accuse us of treason." By November 1943, German intelligence acquired aerial photographs of Willow Run. Taken by a Spanish diplomat, analysts studied the images for weeks. Their findings were undeniable. Parking lots holding some 12,000 cars, confirming 3-shift operations. Completed B-24s sat ready at the nearby airfield, 47 visible. The skylights revealed aircraft spaced exactly as prior reports indicated. Dozens of freight cars crowded the sidings with supplies. Hedman Bernhard concluded in his report, "Photographic evidence aligns with human intelligence. Production rate appears genuine. Urgently recommend strategic reassessment." When Göring was shown the photos, he dismissed them as American trickery, clever photographic manipulation, perhaps with scale models. But Albert Speer, Hitler's armaments minister, and one of the few Nazis who truly grasped industrial realities, secretly reviewed the intelligence. His diary entry of May 15, 1943, later discovered after the war, captured his despair. "If Willow Run's figures are even half correct, then we face not mere defeat but annihilation. They produce more aircraft in a month than we do in an entire year. Yet to speak this truth would mean my death." Dr. Otto Ohlendorf, head of the SD Inland and trained economist, also analyzed American production. His December 1943 report to Himmler was blunt. In 1941, Ford produced 1.1 million civilian vehicles. That capacity has now been converted to bombers. At current rates, by June 1944, the Americans alone will have built enough B-24s to deliver the entire 1940 London Blitz tonnage in a single day. On Christmas Eve 1943, Canaris received projections for American production in 1944 $18,000 B-24 Liberators, 12,000 B-17 Flying Fortresses, 4,000 B-29 Super Fortresses, and 40,000 fighters, a staggering 86,000 aircraft in total. Hitler scoffed at the figures. The Americans claim they will manufacture more aircraft in 1944 than all nations combined have built in history. Absurd. By February 1944, Canaris was dismissed, accused of defeatism and treachery. His replacement, Walter Schellenberg, was a loyal Nazi who would never dare contradict Hitler or Göring. But reality soon shattered denial. On February 20th, 1944, during Big Week, the U.S. 8th Air Force launched Operation Argument. Over 1,000 heavy bombers striking German aircraft plants. In just 6 days, they dropped more tonnage than the entire Luftwaffe had unleashed on Britain during the Blitz. Luftwaffe ace Adolf Galland told Göring bitterly, "Herr Reichsmarschall, I have counted more than 800 bombers in one formation. These planes are no illusion. They are real and they are destroying us." On June 6, 1944, the reality was undeniable. Over 11,000 Allied aircraft darkened the skies above France. The Luftwaffe could field fewer than 300 fighters in response. Field Marshal Hugo Spur sent a grim message to Berlin. "The enemy's air superiority is total. Our intelligence was accurate. The deception was not American, it was our own." By April 1944, Willow Run reached its highest production rate. In that single month, with workers on 2 9-hour shifts 6 days a week, the factory rolled out 453 bombers in 468 hours. That meant one finished B-24 Liberator every 63 minutes. The workforce numbered 42,331, 11,000. Women, 26%. 3,800 African Americans, 9%. And 200 disabled workers, 3%. This reality alone would have shattered Nazi ideology. The so-called inferior races and weaker classes were outproducing the German master race many times over. After the war, German intelligence survivors admitted how complete the failure had been. Walter Schellenberg testified at Nuremberg. By early 1943, we already knew the truth about American output. Every trained intelligence officer realized the numbers were genuine. But to report them honestly meant death for defeatism. Hans Bernd Gisevius wrote in his memoirs, "The tragedy wasn't that we lacked data on American production. We were drowning in it. The tragedy was that our leaders refused to believe it because it defied their racial dogma." Those officers who did try to tell the truth paid with their lives. Admiral Wilhelm Canaris executed April 9, 1945, at Flossenbürg. Hans Oster executed the same day at the same camp. Alexis von Roen executed October 1944 for his role in the July 20 plot. Only Hans Bernd Gisevius escaped to Switzerland and survived the war. The U.S. Strategic Bombing Survey later confirmed what German agents had been reporting. Willow Run built 8685 B-24s between 1942 and 1945. At peak, 650 per month. The 1 bomber per hour pace was sustained for months. The unit cost dropped from $238,000 to $137,000. Albert Speer, under post-war interrogation, was asked why Germany dismissed such clear intelligence. His reply, "To accept that Ford could turn out a bomber every hour meant admitting our entire worldview was false. That democracy was not weak but strong. That racial mixing did not weaken but strengthen. That women could perform men's work. It would mean recognizing we had started a war we could never hope to win. Who would dare tell Hitler that?" Rose Will Monroe, the real life. Rosie the Riveter worked a rivet gun on the B-24 line. Like thousands of women, she had never set foot in a factory before Pearl Harbor. In a 1984 interview, she recalled, "We knew we were building something important. Every rivet we drove would help end the war. Sometimes we worked double shifts, even slept in the parking lot. Our brothers, husbands, and sweethearts were flying those planes." Germany's refusal to believe the intelligence carried fatal consequences. Fighter production. Resources continued to flow into bombers until late 1944. Resource allocation, vast sums, wasted on wonder weapons instead of effective defenses. Strategic planning operations prepared for hundreds of bombers instead of thousands. Diplomacy peace overtures delayed. Never understanding their defeat was certain. Captured American documents after the war revealed the scale. Willow Run alone cost $200 million to build. The entire German aviation industry from 1933-1945 invested the equivalent of $400 million. Willow Run covered 3.5 million square feet of floor space. All German aircraft plants combined totaled 8 million. Willow Run alone consumed 2.5 million kilowatts of electricity every month, more than whole German cities. By war's end, the reckoning was clear. Total B-24s 18,188, of which Willow Run built 8,685. Total B-17s 12,731. Total U.S. aircraft 1945 324,000. Total German aircraft 1945. Thomas Quartus. The United States, while fighting across two oceans, built more than 3 times as many planes as Germany. Historians call this one of the greatest intelligence failures in military history. Not a failure of gathering, the Germans collected superb, detailed reports, but a failure of belief. Leadership chose ideology over mathematics. Dr. Gerhard Weinberg summarized, by early 1943, German intelligence had correctly assessed America's capacity. Had this been accepted and acted upon, Germany might have sought peace 2 years earlier, saving millions of lives. The lessons are profound. Cognitive bias. Accurate intelligence can be rejected if it clashes with core assumptions. Ideological blindness. Political dogma can blind even the sharpest minds. Systemic rot. Organizations that punish truth will embrace comforting lies. Fatal miscalculation. Underestimating an enemy leads to disaster. At the 1985 dedication of the Yankee Air Museum at Willow Run, Rosie the Riveter herself, Roswell Monroe, met former Luftwaffe ace Hans Rudel. He asked, "How did you build so many? So fast?" She smiled. "Honey, we just went to work every day and did our jobs. Nothing fancy. Punch in, build bombers, punch out. Democracy isn't complicated. It's free people giving their best." Rudel replied, "We were told democracy made you weak, that your diversity made you inefficient. We were told lies, and those lies killed millions." In the rubble of Berlin, May 1945, U.S. officers uncovered a final German intelligence report on Willow Run, dated April 20th, Hitler's last birthday. It concluded, "We reported this truth 2 years ago. We were not believed. Germany dies not from lack of intelligence, but from the refusal to believe what we knew to be true. Let the future learn. Reality does not bend to ideology. Numbers do not yield to myths. Truth ignored becomes tragedy." The report was never delivered. By then, Hitler was sealed in his bunker. The 1,000-year Reich had only days left. In the skies above, Germany thundered with thousands of American bombers, many of them born at Willow Run, delivering the final proof. German intelligence had tried, and failed, to force their leaders to accept. The judgment of history is unambiguous. German intelligence gathering was excellent. German acceptance of intelligence was catastrophic. In refusing to believe hard truths, the Reich sealed its own destruction. Willow Run produced more than bombers. It proved that democracy works, that diversity strengthens, that freedom builds. German spies counted the aircraft. German leaders denied the truth, and that denial killed the Third Reich as surely as the bombs themselves.